Welcome to Lazer Radio. This episode is brought to you by the Lazer LifeBeam Helmet Integrated Heart Rate Monitor. With a rechargeable 15-hour runtime, connection via ANT Plus or Bluetooth technology, and helmet-mounted optical sensor, the Lazer LifeBeam is more accurate than traditional heart rate sensors without the bother of an uncomfortable chest strap. Check out the Lazer LifeBeam system at your local Lazer dealer. Welcome back to Lazer Radio. On today's episode, we are joined by a rider from the Amy D Foundation and also a collegiate racer at Marian University, the one and only KK Santos, calling in from
Indianapolis, Indiana.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You mentioned you got some travel coming up, though.
Yeah, we head off to Missoula, Montana on Wednesday to race collegiate nationals, mountain biking.
Right on. At Marian University. We're going to get to that. I want to talk about your collegiate career and decision to race collegiately. But let's go back to the beginning with you. I first heard of you when I was doing the races down in Louisville, Kentucky, like the, I guess, predecessors to Derby City Cup or what would have become the Derby City Cup. You were really lucky to grow up in that Ohio Valley CX scene. Where were you from? Like, where did you grow up?
I'm actually from Louisville, Kentucky.
From Louisville. Born and raised?
Yep.
Man, what a hotbed of cross that is.
I know, and it just keeps growing, which is really cool to see.
So how did you end up racing cross? Like, were you a product of that OVCX cyclocross scene? Were you a road racer or a mountain biker before?
No, I actually started with cross.
Wow.
There was a junior Devo team in Kentucky called Red Zone Cycling. It was run by John Haley and Mike McShane.
Yep. And
they kind of introduced me to it, and then we did all the OVCX races. And it was really cool because at the time the USGP was there as well. So cyclocross just became really hot in Louisville, and it just kept growing. And the Devo team just kept growing as well, and I was introduced super early, so I had the opportunity to grow with it, which was really cool.
Easy to be a cyclocross fan in Louisville, Kentucky, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, going back to the USGP days, which I think inspired a lot of people. But so you kind of had an interesting entrance to the sport. I don't think a lot of people start racing bikes as a cross racer. What were you doing before cross racing? Like, were you always an athlete?
Yeah, I mean, I'd played soccer and basketball. I tried every sport you possibly imagine, and I don't know, nothing really stuck with me. And then I was kind of introduced to bikes. I mean, no one in my family had done it before except for my brother for a little bit of time. So even starting, I was, on a mountain bike, convincing my parents that it was time to upgrade and buy a cross bike was a little challenging. But no, I mean, the team was awesome. They taught me everything I needed to know. I mean, I learned from people like Drew Dillman and Luke Haley and all the greats from the beginning, which was really cool because I had kids to learn from. And I don't know, I just kept growing with the sport, which was really cool. And then followed in their footsteps and came to Marian for that reason. And I don't know, it's all gone really well so far.
Yeah. How did they find you? Like, what was the catalyst? What was your first sort of contact with cyclocross?
I think I came down to the USGP that was in, it was across the street from Eva Bamman.
Yeah, it was an old golf course, right? The old country club. Yep.
Yeah, and I got introduced to the team, and of course, I mean, I was a girl that liked to ride her bike, which is kind of rare.
Yeah. And
they introduced me to it, got me kits. I mean, the people on the team set me up to race, which was really cool. And I don't know, from there, I just stuck with the team, and I grew with it, which was cool.
So let's move to Marian University. You decided you're kind of doing both. You're racing on the Amy D Foundation as your trade team, but you're also racing collegiately with Marian. First of all, what sent you to Marian? I mean, obviously they have one of the biggest programs in the country, but why Marian?
I looked at a few schools, came to tour Marian. I really liked the coach, Dean Peterson. I knew people like Drew Dillman that had come here and really had a lot of success with the program, Corinne Rivera. And everyone just spoke so highly of it, and I don't know, I fell in love with it right when I came, so I knew it'd be a good fit, luckily. And I don't know, it was always on the top of my list from the very beginning. It was always something that I wanted. So I had that goal from the beginning. I'm going to go to Marian and race my bike.
Yeah.
Even, before I got to high school, I said that.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those premier collegiate racing schools. Was your mind made up that you were going to go to a school with the pro? I mean, was racing important in your decision of where you went?
Yeah, I mean, in high school, that was kind of the time where you say, am I going to go to school here in Kentucky? Am I going to look around? Do I want to race my bike? And I was always so in love with racing my bike that I knew I needed to do it in college. And I enjoy it too much to stop. And I knew the program would be perfect. I mean, they treat you like a professional athlete on Marion, which is really, really cool. Like, I don't know, the highest level of everything. And yeah, I mean, I just knew from the beginning I was going to go to Marion, and that was the place.
Yeah. When did you? How old were you when you started racing?
13.
Yeah. So you've really, I mean, 7 years you've gone from zero to, to chasing your passion all over the country.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I'm having a blast. It involves a lot of balance because you're working with school and training 24/7 and balancing friends and all sorts of different things, and it's hard at times, but it's all really worth it. Like it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you miss out on a lot as a collegiate racer. The house parties and the keggers and all the
Which is totally okay with me.
Yeah, the animal house hijinks that you think
Yeah.
you're going to get into a college. But yeah, I mean, you're gone for most weekends out racing either collegially or in your case, with the Amy D squad as well.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that balance. I mean, you mentioned like everything is top level at Marion. It must be crazy to go from a local club team like Red Zone or I guess Be Real was in Louisville, and then all of a sudden you have top level support from Marion and Amy D. Like, what's that transition been like?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, they have spoiled me. It's incredible. The stuff that's come to the house from Pearl Izumi and Lazer.
What was the biggest thing? Like, what was the moment where you're like, wow, this is pro stuff. I really made it. Like, was there a moment that you realized like, wow, this is serious?
Probably going to the race and having two bikes that are the exact same,
Yeah.
and not having an A or B bike, just a bike. I mean, it's crazy that I've never raced on two of the same bike before. And I've always been super picky because my race bike's my race bike, and I don't like to pit.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like, oh, I'll take both of them.
Might as well.
Yeah. So I think that was a deciding moment. I mean, probably coming home and having boxes of Pearl Izumi gear that I get to rep all season. That's been pretty cool. Laser helmet.
The gear gets everyone. Like the first time you unwrap that, that brand new helmet, you're like, that it's just free. I don't have to. You're just going to give it to me. Yeah, it's amazing. But that's part of being pro.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool.
And it only gets better. And then sort of the infrastructure of the team as well. Obviously, you have your coach at Marion, but then when you show up to let's say a cross race with the Amy D Foundation, you don't have to do much except race your bike.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. They take care of me. I was talking to the mechanic before Jingle Cross, and he's like, "Here, let me clean your bike before you go to the start." I'm like, "Wait, you're gonna clean my?" Start. He's like, that's we're supposed to do that. And I was like, what? I clean my bike about once a week, but thank you. He was shining it up. It was really cool. But no, the program's been really cool about everything. I mean, they've been cool with me balancing the collegiate schedule with the regular pro CX schedule, which has been really nice. So after this coming week, I get to go full cross, which is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, nice. It sounds like there's understanding on both sides. I mean, Marion to let you sort of go off their program and move on to the Pro CX program, and the Amy D Foundation team as well to say, hey, you're a student, you need to be a student, you need to race collegiately, and maybe enjoy racing a little bit.
Yeah.
Has the balance been tough? Like, was it sort of tough to figure out at the beginning to work out your schedule?
A little bit, because it was going, like, for example, I went to Cross Vegas with the team, and it was going to Cross Vegas for 3 days, flying back, and then driving with the team to Wisconsin to race a collegiate mountain bike race. So parts have been challenging, but, I mean, both have been super flexible, both Marion and Amy D Foundation, which has been really nice because they just kind of let me figure things out, which is cool. But, I mean, it's helped because at the beginning of the season, we wrote it all out, and we coordinated, and we figured it all out, which was really good. So, I mean, everything's pretty well mapped out and working out well.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, both of those programs, want the best for you, especially the Amy D Foundation. I mean, that's, at the end of the day, that's what it's really all about, is helping
Sure.
you to do what you ultimately want to do.
Mhm.
What are you studying in school? What's your major?
Marketing and entrepreneurship.
Yeah, very cool. You start your own business after school.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Let's talk about goals for this year. Do you set your goals as an Amy D rider, or do you set your goals as a Marion rider, or is it sort of a mix of both?
50-50 currently.
Yeah.
I mean, for collegiate wise, I'd like to get top 5 at nationals in the collegiate race. U23 also top 5. And then long term, by February, I mean, I'd really like to go to Worlds, so I'd like to qualify for that for U23. So that's my big goal right now. That's what I'm striving to do.
Yeah, the world selection is a major next step. You've already had a taste of success. You were, was it 17, 18 national champion in cross?
Yeah.
What was?
Yep, in Colorado.
Yeah. What was that year like? That had to be sort of a stamp of like, all right, I can do this.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. It seemed like everyone had like a solid trade team at that time, and I had a lot of locals helping me get through a lot of things, helping me with equipment and everything. I did not expect to win, but I stayed out there for 2 weeks to prep for the altitude and everything.
Wow.
I memorized the course like the back of my hand, and when it came to racing it, I felt like I just knew every line, every corner, had it figured out. But I mean, it was a surprise. I didn't expect to win it, but I knew I was going to put everything I could into the course and do my best. So I don't know. That was probably the highlight, and now I'm just striving to do that again.
You pointed out something really interesting that I guess I never really thought about. A lot of riders, by the time they're in that 17, 18 category, they've been picked up or identified by some sort of trade team, and they're at least getting a little bit of support. Did you?
Yeah.
Did you kind of feel like an underdog? Just racing for your hometown club team.
Yeah, a little bit, but I knew with time something good would come of it. Like I just had to keep working and prove myself. And, that's what I kind of always felt like. If I work hard enough, someone's going to notice eventually. So I just got to keep doing my thing. But yeah, I mean, you line up with people like, Emma White and Ellen Noble and those girls. And I mean, they've had incredible seasons and years. And I don't know, it was just something to strive for from the very beginning.
You mentioned some really powerful women. You represent this sort of new crop of cyclocross stars. In this next wave as the Katie Comptons retire, and we're looking for that next great American cyclist. And you guys have a huge opportunity to really make some headway. And I think this is where the Amy D Foundation team comes in a lot, is creating these opportunities for riders like you, and then also showing that you can just kick ass when given the opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, do you sort of feel like an ambassador, one, racing for the Amy D Foundation team, but two, also just being a successful female cross racer?
Absolutely. Honestly, going home and riding with the local girls that are, still on the Devo teams, I think that that's the coolest part, because they can use me as an example that if you just work hard enough for something, someone's going to notice, and you're going to become successful in whatever you do. So, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of given me more of a voice, I think, which is pretty neat, because I represent something bigger than myself now, which is really cool. But yeah, I don't know. People recognize it a lot more. I mean, they see the blue and orange, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, I recognize that," and then I can talk about it, which is really cool.
Yeah. What was your first? Did you see Amy race? Were you old enough to? I mean, were you watching the high level races when you first got into the sport, or what was your first contact with the Amy D Foundation?
Yeah, no. I'd known about her as a racer, because I compared her with like Katie Compton in Georgia, and at the beginning I told Dan I remember the day that she passed away. I remember sitting in class and seeing I think a tweet about it from maybe USA Cycling or something like that. And then later, like a couple months later, I ended up going to nationals, and I stickered my helmet up and my bike up and everything with all the Amy D stickers on it. And that was the year I won, which was really cool. But yeah, I mean, she was an inspiration to a lot of people, and you can just look at Instagram and everything that the Amy D Foundation uses, and all the people that comment and are inspired by it. So I don't know. She had a big voice, and I want to, follow in those footsteps.
That's a cool story. It kind of comes full circle. You were flying the Amy D flag from
Yeah.
since you won your national championship, and now you get to represent them full time. When did you first meet Dan? Because we're talking about Dan Dombrowski, who is like the major driving force behind this team and the program. Like, how did you guys get into contact?
Actually, I had applied online for the foundation
Yeah.
a couple years ago. I think I might have been 18 at the time when I had originally applied. And then I had kept seeing it grow. And then this past year, I was like, well, I don't have, a professional team yet. I know I still have school. It's going to be a little hard to find one still. So I applied online. He gave me a phone call. That was really, really cool after I went through the interview process. And he told me, he said, I really hate telling people no. And I was like, oh, no.
This is it.
Yeah. And then he goes, but you know what? My favorite thing is telling people yes. And I'm like, what? And freaked out. So then I formally ended up meeting him in Vegas, which was really cool.
Yeah.
He introduced himself. He's a super nice guy. I mean, super nice, sweet, like, loves what he's doing. I don't know. It was pretty cool.
What a crazy, like, with just one phone call, it changes, traveling to 10 or 15 different cities for a year. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, I got this award. It's like, I mean, it majorly affected your life and your schedule, knowing that you were going to be able to do this Pro CX calendar with support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was crazy. I mean, they gave me the opportunity to write down what races I wanted to go to. And I was looking at the calendar thinking, oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever been this many states at once. Like, you're like, what am I going to do? So I put down as many as I could because I was like, I got to seize the opportunity if I can. So.
Do you have a favorite cross race? You can't say Louisville because that's your hometown race. But aside from Louisville, do you have a favorite race or a favorite venue?
That's a tough one.
You can say you love them all because
I do love them all. I really like Cincy and I like Devou Park. I know they changed it this year, unfortunately, but I was a big fan of Devou where they did the Pan Ams.
Yeah, classic course. I mean,
yeah,
everyone knows that course. What was it about Cincinnati and Louisville that made it such a hotbed of cyclocross? I mean, it just blows my mind every time I go down there how big the cross scene is, and it sort of just came out of nowhere. Like why Louisville and Cincinnati?
It's kind of funny. I don't really know how that all started, but I know that there's a lot of older guys that kind of started it. And I don't know if they expected it to catch on, but it did really fast. And then all these different people wanted to create Devo programs. So now I think in Louisville we have like 4 Devo programs. And there's so many kids starting, which is really cool because every program just keeps getting bigger. And every time I go back, there's like 10 more kids on the cross course I've never seen before.
Yeah, you talked about going home. Do you get to go back a lot? I mean, do you get to travel back from Indiana to go home a lot?
I try to. Now it's kind of hard since I'm always gone, but I've traveled back a couple times for local clinics and stuff to help out with, and then I'll go back for any of the major breaks that we have from school. But yeah, I don't get to go back as much as I'd like. Staying busy for the most part.
Is it weird going back to do a clinic in your hometown? Like, to think just a few years ago, 7 years ago, you were, that rider on the other side that had never raced cross before, that just sort of stumbled upon this sport. And now, like, you could have the next KK Santos in front of you.
Oh yeah, it is. It's awesome. I mean, the kids look at you with big eyes and they just want to listen to everything you have to say. I mean, and the most popular question I get is, can you bunny hop? And then we have to go to the barriers and we have to learn bunny hopping right after that.
You're darn right I can bunny hop.
But yeah, no, it's cool. They respect what you have to say because you're repping a really, inspiring team. So yeah, it's different. Going back and seeing kids that you saw begin racing, it's cool.
Yeah, everyone loves going home.
Yeah.
Have you given any thought to your post-collegiate plans? I mean, have you thought about being a pro bike racer after school?
Yeah, actually, that's part of the plan. I I'd like to race domestically for sure for the next couple of years after school. I'll have more time to kind of focus on training and stuff. Because right now I'm balancing several different things, especially with school stuff. But no, yeah, that's part of the plan. I'd like to do that. Join a pro cyclocross team again, or be a part of the Amy D Foundation in some way, and race pro for sure. Yeah, right after school.
Yeah, and get to Europe. Did you ever race in Europe, like with any diva? Did you do the USA cycling programs or any of that?
No, I was kind of not at that level for a while. I wasn't really recognize. I mean, there were 3 or 4 people that were always way higher up on the totem pole.
It's a really tough pipeline, isn't it? I mean, if you don't get in, like if you're not part of the program from a pretty young age, it's a tough nut to crack. It's a tough club to get into.
Yeah, and I think part of it's knowing the right people. But yeah, it really is. It's a core group of people that they take back multiple times because they know they're consistent. They've seen them as bike racers, but I feel like it is kind of a challenge to get to that level and then have people recognize it. So you just got to try and stand out in another way. So you just got to keep working harder and crack that next top 10 or crack that next top 5.
Did you have, like, as you sort of aged up, did you have a little bit of that, like, why not, why can't I go to Europe? Why don't I get selected to go over? I mean, did you feel like you had something to prove? It probably wouldn't be until you were 16, 17, 18 years old, which I guess kind of goes back to the underdog thing. But did you feel like you had an underdog position, in terms of national selections and things like that?
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, and I'll always feel like I do. I'll always feel like I need to work just a little bit harder to make a statement, to get noticed. I mean, and the best thing about the Amy D Foundation is people know who you are just because you're wearing the colors, which is so cool. And your name gets to be out there, and you get to be recognized for what you're doing, which is really cool. But no, I mean, yeah, even now I'm still trying to figure out what I need to do to make that world's team, to have my name out there for the coaches to look at it and say, we'll take a chance on this rider and develop them and see if they want to go. But luckily I went to Jeff Proctor's USA cross camp this year in Montana, and I learned a lot from him about all that stuff, with Chris McGovern as well. So it was cool to meet them, and they kind of talked to us a little bit about what we have to do, which helped a lot.
Yeah, it's a tough road to navigate, that's for sure. Especially, not coming from the sport, and not, you came as an outsider from the sport with no family. You didn't have an older sibling or something that, went through the program or anything like that. So, yeah, it's a tough one to get into. With the Worlds team, it sounds like the Worlds team is, sort of your big goal for this year. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
I mean, your top goal. That means there's pressure every race to have, an impressive performance. Because once you get on the radar, and then if you have a tough race, it's sort of it sticks out. Do you feel like your racing is different this year with pressure like that? As opposed to racing before, where it was like, yeah, we'll see how I do. I mean, it sounds like even into your 17, 18 years, you were still feeling out the sport, but now there's like a clear path in front of you. Has that changed how you approach the sport?
A little bit. I mean, I do get pretty nervous before the races.
Did you get nervous before? Like when you were racing as a kid, were you like, or as a junior, I should say, were you, did you have the same nerves? Or were you always a nervous racer?
A little bit, but I mean, even my parents, they've never been ones to put pressure on me. My coaches never put pressure on me, so it was me putting it on myself. I would tell myself, today's the day, you have to do your best, you have to do well, especially at national events. But I think now it's a little bit different. I was talking to Becca about this before Jingle Cross. I was telling her that I was fairly nervous to do it, and she's like, "You're just here to race your bike. Like, do your thing, have fun, and then the number will come. Like, you're gonna do fine. You just have to have fun with it." But so I personally believe in happiness watts. If you're having fun, you're gonna go fast.
I think more people should embrace happiness watts. I like that.
Right?
Well, it sounds like you're still enjoying racing your bike, even with all the pressure on. You still love what you're doing, whether it's riding with Marion, even with maybe the long travel to places like Montana. or racing with Amy D. That's really good to see. I'm really glad to see that.
Yeah, I'm glad that no one ever forced me to race my bike or ride my bike. It was always me choosing to do it. So I've stuck with the passion. I still love it. I mean, it's the same passion I've had since the day I first got on one. So
yeah. Well, hey, what a cool story. Thanks for taking the time today. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So you're headed to Montana, right? That's what you said?
Yep, where it's about 30 degrees and snowing.
You guys aren't driving out there, are you?
No, we're flying.
All right, good. Well, best of luck. We'll be cheering you on for Mountain Bike Nationals, and we'll see you in the Amy D kit this year.
Sweet, I appreciate it. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
This has been another episode of Lazer Radio. Be sure to check out more great shows on the Wide Angle Podium Network. Until next time, I'm Brad Sohner, saying thanks for listening.